His main research areas on artificial intelligence and copyright, which he shared a lot about in that first session, and we'll get some more on it in this one. He also deals with open licensing, cryptocurrencies, and smart contracts. He has acted as an international consultant for the World Intellectual Property Organization. And he has also done activist work with Creative Commons. Also, we have Dr. Nigel Camacho, Managing Director of ModCom. And this session, once again, be moderated by Mr. Khalil Mohammed. And again, we urge you all to direct your questions to the question and answer box to the right of the screen. And once again, we thank you for being part of Ideas Empowered. Khalil, over to you once again.
Thanks, Alex. You basically summarize context of the importance, importantly, of this segment in the best way possible. Since the birth of the internet in 1983, it has fostered technological innovation beyond our wildest imagination. In today's climate, business operations that digitize manufacturing relies on AI for efficiency, and our currencies and the way we would leverage assets are done digital. This has given birth to NFTs, which has caused the latest stir in the future of creative expression as a highly lucrative marketplace for art and asset collection and trade. NFTs are digital tokens containing an original file leverage using cryptocurrencies, and these currencies are mined on blockchain. To know more about these specifics and work together to add value, I would like to invite Dr. Andres Guadamuz once again to our discussion. Dr. Guadamuz, over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen again, and let's see. You'll see. All right. Can you see everything fine now? Still good. Thanks again for the invitation. I promised that I would start with a really general introduction, which I did. And now we're going to go into more detail, go into the nitty-gritty of the subject, specifically about NFTs. Now, I do have another apology. This is a very heavy topic. I only have about 20 minutes to deal with it. So there's no possible chance that I'm going to manage to do that. I am definitely going to run out of time, but I'll try to start with an introduction of the NFT ecosystem. My apologies also include that I've written a lot about this subject. You can find a link on the screen to a full paper. Is now published with the Journal of Intellectual Property Law and Practice since December of last year. It's about 12,000 words. Everything you want to know about NFTs, but we're free to ask if I don't get time to do that. So this comes from my interest in the subject comes from a large amount of research. I've been thinking about cryptocurrencies since 2011. So make of that what you will. However, I also want to start with a disclaimer. I sometimes come to this topic from sometimes a bit of a critical perspective. I have minted, I have bought, minted, and sold NFTs. I've only managed to lose money. I think I'm the only person in the space. Sometimes it feels that has managed to lose money. This is one of my first sales, which is I sold my article on NFTs as an NFT, which I'm happy to explain to people. Now, one of the things we're going to go through first is a very brief explanation of what is a blockchain and what are smart contracts. And then we're going to go into tokens and NFTs specifically. If I have a little bit of time, I'll talk very briefly about copyright aspects, but just hopefully I'll have some time. Blockchain is, by now, almost everyone knows or has heard about blockchains. Blockchain is generally understood as an open, permissionless, cryptographic, decentralized ledger. This ledger is going to be public and it's going to be decentralized. And since everyone can check the past, future, and present and proposed transactions, the future proposed transactions, I mean, there's increasing reliability in the system. Now, this is a definition that probably doesn't tell you much. I don't want to delve into a lot of the details, but what we are doing, particularly with some of the systems, the proof of work system specifically, is using computing power to put transactions into bundles that are called blocks, and these bundles of transactions are going to come together. So one bundle of transactions, one block, is tied to the next one. What we're doing with mining, which particularly with the proof of work systems, is that you're trying to guess an output, a mathematical output with mathematical computation. And that is, whoever guesses that right is going to be awarded or is going to be rewarded with participation with the reward of the block. Now, and all of this is what it looks like in reality. Whenever you have a transaction in the blockchain, is going to be presented as an address, and this is an address that is public. Everyone can see what I did when I printed it, which address it came from, if it's a transaction, which address it's going to. So that is, generally speaking, very, very broadly speaking, blockchain. I know I'm probably butchering the technical explanation, but what's interesting for us is whatever it happens, all of this information is in a public ledger and everyone in the world can see it. So that is one of the most important elements that we're going to see. Then we have the concept of smart contracts. It is a bit of a strange name. It was created by Nick Szabo, or coined by Nick Szabo a few years ago. But the problem is that smart contracts are not always contracts in the legal sense. So sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. What we're dealing with specifically is a type of code. It's usually implemented in a common language. One of the most popular nowadays is Solidity, which is used in the Ethereum environment. And this is going to be pegged to a cryptocurrency for automated payments and transactions. So you have smart contracts in the Ethereum environment, in the Tezos environment, in the Solana environment, et cetera, et cetera. And these transactions, this contract gets written into the blockchain. So it's going to be, the code is actually going to be public as well. This is immutable code. Immutable has a bit of a weird connotation. We can deal with that later. But most importantly is that we are talking about openly verifiable transactions. Okay. All right, yeah. Thanks. Sorry, I just received the chat. All right. So yes, I'll take advantage of that. Thanks very much. What we're dealing with usually when we're talking about tokens and smart contracts, a token is actually a version of a smart contract. By the way, a smart contract can be anything. What I meant, I should probably specify this. Smart contract is something that you can write into a blockchain, but doesn't necessarily need to be a contract, a legal contract as we understand it. Sometimes it's phrased in if-then formulations, but sometimes you can use a smart contract for things like declaring eternal love. I've seen smart contracts and things like that, or just to make any statement. One of the uses of smart contracts is called a token. So a token is really just a digital representation of goods, or a good or a service that is going to be written in a blockchain. And this can represent anything. So it can represent a character in a game. It can represent a work of art. It can represent an airline ticket, frequent flyer miles, provenance, coins, links to resources. It can represent almost anything. And this is, again, represented as a smart contract. All right. Now, there are lots and lots of different types of tokens. One of the ones that we're going to be dealing with today is NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Now, there is a little bit of a history on this. We start seeing around 2017. Actually, it predates that a little bit if you want to go into a little bit more detail. The real first NFT is something called a rare Pepes, which were deployed around 2016 already. These were not NFTs, but are starting to see some form of what we would understand later as an NFT. These are unique tokens that would be traded on a specific cryptocurrency. These were sort of the first ones. They were going for a few thousands of dollars at the time. But really what we understand as the first implementation of NFTs that we recognize today are CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks. CryptoKitties were probably the first, which were tokens that were representing cats. And the second one, which are still very popular, are the CryptoPunks. These, particularly the CryptoKitties, clogged up the Ethereum blockchain back in 2017. So I think even though people were interested in the subject, there was a little bit of a time when they moved out of people's imagination. What do we mean by a non-fungible token? So we have two types of goods. We have fungible goods and non-fungible goods. Fungible goods are by definition interchangeable. So it doesn't matter any specific item you're selling or buying. So you have commodities tend to be fungible. Things like silver, gold, oil, grain, all of those are commodities that are, it doesn't matter what type of grain you get, or if you're buying rice, it doesn't matter specifically. It's fungible. You can change it. You can get oil, you can get silver, etc., etc. A non-fungible good, by contrast, is something that has to be a specific. So it's unique. Non-fungible good would be a specific silver necklace or gold statuette or painting, a specific painting. So you're already dealing with things that are unique or can be of unique class. So non-fungible tokens are smart contracts that are going to represent a non-fungible good. And this always links to that item. And the token itself is non-fungible. You can, it represents, it's scarce, it's unique. Now, what we mean by this, there are fungible tokens, there are all sorts of tokens. So there are fungible tokens, and these are usually written in a certain type of standard. Specifically for the Ethereum environment, there are specific standards for non-fungible tokens or unfungible tokens as well. So the standard for fungible tokens is ERC20. There's an improved one, ERC223. Non-fungible tokens is ERC721. Token to transfer funds is ERC777. And token to transfer copyright is ERC1190. More of that later. The non-fungible token specifically is going to be for pretty much everything. Everything that you can digitize, anything that has a digital life could be potentially turned into an NFT, and maybe even could be for something that is not digital. Of course, there can be arguments about whether or not that is useful. But things like music, art, game items, sport highlights, or collectibles, things like profile pictures, all of these that are digital can be turned into an NFT. A very important element in the ecosystem are the third parties. You can, in theory, mint your own stuff. I've done it myself. I installed an implementation of the ERC721 smart contract in my computer, and I started minting my own NFTs just because I have nothing else to do. I have no life during the pandemic. That way madness lies. You can do it the hard way. It's possible, and you can then upload it to a testnet or to the Ethereum blockchain if you know what you're doing, or any other blockchain. So it is possible. The technology is there. The technology is open source. Everyone can do it. Most of the minting, however, takes place in what is known as marketplaces. These marketplaces generally, the easiest thing is that you upload your artwork, your music, your video, your file, and you can get them to mint your work. To create mint means to create an NFT from your work. These marketplaces are going to act as third parties between the buyer and the seller. They may take a commission. And also transaction fees that are going to keep the network operating. This is generally known as gas. It can be quite expensive. One of the reasons why I've managed to lose money, even I've sold some NFTs, is because of the gas prices were prohibitively expensive. Now, there are ways around this. The most popular is OpenSea by a large margin. It is the biggest marketplace out there. Then there are others like Mintable, Rarible, Cent, Foundation, you name it. There are lots of different ones. Polygon as well, etc., etc. Okay, so there are marketplaces. These are third parties where you can mint and sell your NFTs. I would normally classify them. This is my own classification. I'm happy if people disagree with this classification, but I think it works quite well. That there are three types of NFTs. The first one is where the work in its entirety is uploaded to the blockchain. This is very rare due to prohibited cost, and this is a feature, not a bug. And it costs a lot of money to upload information into the blockchain. It starts at about 100. The last time I checked, and these figures may be completely outdated, it was about $140 for 1 megabyte, but maybe it's gotten even more expensive. So it can become really prohibitive, and particularly if you don't want to sell your things at a very large price, it can be very, very difficult. So this is very rare. Then the second one is the NFTs, a smart contract that supposedly transfer copyright. This is also very rare because, in my opinion, just clicking transfer copyright of a purchase, it doesn't work from a legal perspective. If we have time, I'll go into that. Oh, sorry. And the third one is the most common. The NFT is just code. It's just a code that is uploaded to a blockchain. All right. This is for an example of on-chain assets. CryptoPunks can be considered to be an on-chain asset. And there is something called Avastars, which is one of the few projects which they upload the entire image to the blockchain. I will let you decide on whether that is a good idea or not based on this. This is an example of a licensed class asset, the very famous Bored Apes, or Bored Ape Yacht Club, which all of the celebrities are starting to buy and trade. These are not, you don't buy the ape whenever you're buying a Bored Ape, you are buying a license to use for some commercial purposes. So we can talk about that. But people talk, oh, this is my ape, and I sometimes scream, no, it's not your ape. You just bought a license to the ape. It's not yours. There's no copyright that exchanged hands. This is the most common type of token. It's, as I was saying, the ERC-721, where you have an asset, you have the token that is going to have the metadata, that is going to have the different elements of the artwork. So metadata, what do I mean by that? This is literally what I mean. The ERC-721 standard only has two requirements: contract address and the token ID. So those two are the NFT. That's it. An NFT is just two entries into a database. contract address, which is the contract address where the contract can be located, and the token ID is going to be unique whenever the work is minted. So most of the time, there is also other elements. So you can have who is the author, the title of the work, and a URL linking to where the work can be found. But those are not necessary. The two necessary ones from the standard is contract address and token ID. It's important it does contain a link most of the time. And that link is where you can find the asset. This is a typical NFT. This is from an article on tokens and property of tokens by Juliet Moringhello. And I love it because it's a really nice, it breaks down what is in an NFT. This is an NFT. But whenever someone shows you the image is not the NFT. The image is not the Bored Ape. The image is this. I mean, the NFT is this. You are buying a link to an image. So it has the link, it has the token name, token ID, contract address, and sometimes the address of the creator, so you can verify that this came from someone. All right. And so it's pretty much these two lists. Or okay, some statistics, and I think I'll have time. I've been told that I'll have time to, because we're very quick on the first session. That was my intention. So interestingly, this is from a paper on Nature that was published in November of 2021. So it's quite recent, and they were looking at the average, what is the environment for NFTs. So apparently I'm not alone in not making any money from NFTs. About 75% of all NFT assets are sold for lower than $15 US dollars. And only 1% of the assets are sold for over $1,594. I don't know why that precisely. I think it was just to bring the 1%. Of the top 10% of all traders perform 85% of all the transactions and trade at least once 97% of the assets. So this is a very small closed market. Even though there are a lot of participants, the whales are the ones that rule the market. And NFTs also, price correlates strongly with the price of the NFTs previously sold within the same collection. So if your collection is successful, if the Bored Apes are successful, most of the other Bored Apes are going to be successful. I can tell you from experience, I've been trying to sell a llama for months, and it hasn't shifted. So make of that what you will. How does it work in reality? I actually went and created a few NFTs. So I started with this work, which is, I generated this with a tool that follows your finger, in the trackpad in a Mac. So each dot that you see is click. You can see, I think there's a lot of Twitter in here. Okay, I use this as an artwork. I created it, I uploaded it to an PFS service. This is important because the NFT is a link. It's important to actually upload it to a service that is decentralized, because otherwise, if you upload it to a centralized service where you have all the control, you can change the image. The NFT is just a link. So some people started doing this. There is a very interesting experiment where someone put an NFT and linked it, and then they replaced the NFT with the poop emoji. So see that. It was quite an interesting experiment. So try to upload it to what is known as IPFS service, which is distributed. Then you use your wallet to connect to the platform. And then you mint using a platform. In this case, I use Mintable, which is a free or gasless environment. I uploaded it. It hasn't sold, of course. I'm selling it too expensive. The idea was not to sell it. I didn't want to sell this. I need experience in blockchain, so you can go after this and you can look at the address. It's still there. It hasn't sold. However, I minted it cheaper in another blockchain, the Tezos blockchain, Ik et Nunc, and it sold immediately. And it was, funnily, maybe it was cheaper. So it was sold for about $20. bought some, sold some. This one is still, I bought it for a stupid amount of money and still hasn't sold. So if anyone wants to buy it, go ahead. I have a few, just a couple of minutes to talk about, very briefly about copyright issues. We can discuss these later. There are lots of very interesting issues: authorship, what rights are transferred with NFT, licenses, copyright infringement, platform enforcement, etc., and moral rights. I won't go through them. Just briefly, with authorship, the first owner is the author of the work. However, there are questions about collective works. Some of these works have been created by a collective. There is also a joint authorship, and some works generated by unprofessional outfits. Who owns what? There is sometimes not a lot of understanding of who owns what. There also could be a question that a lot of these projects, particularly things like CryptoPunks and other generated NFTs, have been generated by an artificial intelligence, or sometimes not an artificial intelligence, by generative work. So there could be even no copyright protecting a lot of these images, because a lot of works created by artificial intelligence are not protected by copyright. Just so, and quickly, transfer of rights. I don't think that there is a transfer of rights. I'm sorry, but I don't think that you get any rights when you get an NFT unless you get a contract outside. And as I was mentioning, you get a license. So with projects like Bored Apes, you could be eventually getting a license to a work. So I'm going to bypass that. I think we'll make the slides available, because I'm aware that I've run out of time. And any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Guadamuz. Very insightful presentation. I think what this presentation has done, anyone who has just heard the term NFT or crypto, this has actually gave them a full understanding of what it actually is.